Show me what you got.
How's it going, guys and geeks? My name is Dakota, and today we've got a lot to cover as we discuss the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it's thus far been released, and the rough order in which everything thus far fits in chronologically. This is version 3.0 of this video, released the week of November 6th, and if everything goes according to plan, I should have version 4.0 ready to go just after Black Panther is released. So subscribe to stay up to date with this list if you enjoy it and the MCU in general. Today I'll be showing you the best way to watch each without breaking up the movies or seasons unnecessarily for an adequate and generalized chronological order. Of course, beware of spoilers.
Grenade!
Though not the first Marvel film to be released, the majority of Captain America: The First Avenger takes place before the events of any other film or TV show, with the exception of the odd flashback or two in certain films or series, which is one of the rules we'll use in mapping this chronology. If the majority takes place in the past, present, or future, that's where the whole will land on the list. The end of The First Avenger sees Steve Rogers in, relative to release, present-day New York City, which turns out to be Fury's big week, something we'll talk more about in just a bit. Hold on, just a sec. Before we do that, let's go back to the 40s as Peggy Carter plants the seeds that will eventually become S.H.I.E.L.D. in Marvel's Agent Carter Season 1.
We have a locked position on Zodiac.
Next, you may wish to watch the Marvel one-shot Agent Carter, a short film available on the Iron Man 3 home video release, though the inclusion is questionable within canon, as some of the material is partially covered in the first and second season. But then, of course, watch Season 2. It was announced at San Diego Comic-Con 2017 that Captain Marvel will take place during the 90s and will involve a Kree invasion, though the film has yet to begin filming. Leaving the 90s behind, we enter the modern day with the film that started it all, Iron Man. With the success of Iron Man, a more or less B-list hero in the pantheon of Marvel Comics characters, this film opened the doors to a number of different films and series, including the aforementioned Captain America and his Peggy Carter spin-offs. And thus starts Fury's big week, which is a number of films that take place roughly around the same one-week period. It's confusing, so instead of stopping and starting each individual film after every few scenes, let's find the best viewing timeline. Note, the events outlined in the various end credits scenes don't necessarily take place directly after each individual film, so we won't be considering those in placing these films side by side chronologically. The next film you'll wish to take up is Iron Man 2, which takes place concurrently with Thor and the Incredible Hulk, but for the most part happens before the other two. Though The Incredible Hulk isn't exactly an origin story, it's sometimes confused as a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk film from 2003. Well, it's as much a reboot as it is a spiritual successor to the previous Hulk film, but The Incredible Hulk is the only solo Hulk film that is considered part of the MCU canon. After The Incredible Hulk, you'll want to watch the Marvel one-shot A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer, found on the Captain America: The First Avenger Blu-ray release. Next, yep, you guessed it, it's Thor, the titular debut of everyone's favorite Asgardian. Well, he's my favorite Asgardian anyway.
Oh my God.
We have another Marvel one-shot after Thor in The Consultant. Both Agent Phil Coulson and Jasper Sitwell make return appearances.
I'm bringing the party to you.
I don't see how that's a party.
And then, of course, we received The Avengers, the first major superhero crossover epic ever. It proved to the world that an ensemble cast that comprised multiple different franchises could work as a singular team, and was hugely influential in the way Hollywood has approached franchises in the years since. In the wake of the Chitauri invasion, some alien tech gets in the hands of the wrong people, which is where the Item 47 one-shot takes place. This one-shot was what put the notion of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show on the map. Iron Man 3 gives the MCU a starker outlook on the mental stability of its heroes. See what I did there? Starker? No? Okay. Well, we also got a fake villain in the Mandarin, which upset a lot of fans who felt it was a bit of a cop-out.
Where? Where's the Mandarin? Where is it?
Whoa, he's here. He's here, but he's not here. He's here, but he's not here.
What do you mean?
It's complicated.
All Hail the King, however, makes some moves at fixing that issue. In the Marvel one-shot, we find the actor who portrayed the fake Mandarin is being interviewed to figure out if there really is a Ten Rings terrorist group.
Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division.
And what does that mean to you?
Means someone really wanted our initials to spell out S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes chronologically next on the list, and take note that it is the only show with logical breaks that other films and series can fit within its seasons without disrupting the narrative. The first season of Marvel's lineup of interconnected live-action shows should be watched up through Episode 7. Thor: The Dark World sees the God of Thunder returning to protect Midgard, aka Earth, from the Dark Elves. Fun fact, this film was the worst received critically of all 15 Marvel films to date, according to Rotten Tomatoes' aggregate score, but man is it funny. I gotta rewatch that sometime.
I've got this completely under control.
Is that why everything's on fire?
Get used to the back and forth with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from here on out. Episode 8 shares some tangential relations with Thor: The Dark World, but it's the events in Episode 16 that impact the rest of the MCU pretty heavily. Because, well, Hail Hydra.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
The film that flipped the MCU on its head, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, finds itself next on our chronological timeline. The first solo Cap adventure that takes place in relative present day also happens to be the best political thriller in years. The last batch of episodes, 17 through 22 from Season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., sees our agents dealing with the fallout of their organization. The majority of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 takes place 26 years after 1988, so this fits snugly with its 2014 release date, and is a solid break from a less than perfect first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
What are you doing?
I'm distracting you, you big turd blossom.
And next you'll want to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 up until the mid-season break after Episode 10. I promise though, it gets better in Season 2. Seriously guys, watch it. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 also takes place in 2014, just a mere 3 months after the first film, as opposed to its release in 2017. This makes sense as the Ravagers haven't caught up with them as of this point, and Baby Groot is, well, he's still Baby Groot.
I'm Groot.
No!
While we're left in suspense as to what our favorite agents are up to, let's place the entirety of Daredevil Season 1, which ushers in the Netflix/Defender series, into the mix right here. Because it takes place over the course of several months, presumably, it does run concurrently to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, episodes 11 through 19. But there's no way to correctly identify which episodes fit where. Our Avengers team up again in Age of Ultron with the inclusion of several new core team members, Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver, who unfortunately leaves his mortal coil too soon, but he's not as cool as his X-Men alternative anyway, so it's not that big a deal. And after Age of Ultron, we'll place the final 3 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. WHIH Newsfront comes next on the chronological timeline as it's an in-universe news program meant to drum up attention to the next forthcoming Marvel film. You can find these on YouTube as it's a free web series. This is a 4-part series that takes place in July of 2015.
Mr. Lang, how are you?
Well, I'm still in prison, so, bad.
Ant-Man follows closely after the events outlined in the WHIH Newsfront videos as we see Scott Lang take up the mantle of the MCU's tiniest hero. Note that the opening scene of this film takes place in the 80s, but the majority of the film is set in present day.
Hi, I'm Scott.
Did you just say hi, I'm Scott?
What are you doing here? First off, I'm a big fan. Appreciate it. So who the hell are you? I'm Ant-Man. Ant-Man? What, you haven't heard of me? No, you wouldn't have heard of me.
Next, we want to visit, again, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Season 3, but again only up until the mid-season break after Episode 10. Jessica Jones Season 1 arrives next on our timeline as she follows some leads on Kilgrave's whereabouts. We are also introduced to Luke Cage in several episodes throughout her series, before his debut series. Daredevil Season 2 fits nicely in between Jessica Jones and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., though it must be noted this runs concurrently to some episodes in the latter show's third season. But most of Daredevil Season 2 occurs before episodes 11 through 19 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, so we'll place that here instead of unnecessarily breaking up Daredevil Season 2. That said, we do get this fun little Easter egg where they reference a gang war in Hell's Kitchen, which is a direct tie to Daredevil Season 2. Luke Cage comes a few months after Jessica Jones and perhaps a month after Daredevil Season 2, so we'll place his first season right here. WHIH Newsfront appears again with 5 short clips from April to May 2016 that help unveil the events about to take shape in Captain America: Civil War. Here our heroes find themselves at an impasse, divided between conflicting ideals of freedom and regulation. Though not quite an Avengers film exactly, it does feature more team members than any other film to date, including some new ones like Black Panther and Spider-Man. And because it's directed by the Russo Bros, it's probably safe to assume this is more likely what we'll be getting from Infinity War than what we saw in Age of Ultron.
Nice job, kid.
Thanks. Well, I could have stuck the landing a little better. It's just a new suit. Wait, it's nothing. Mr. Stark, it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't really need to start a conversation.
Okay. Captain? Big fan?
Next, you'll wish to finish off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 with the last 3 episodes. Spider-Man Homecoming is the first and only Spider-Man iteration to be included in the MCU canon to date. Spider-Man Homecoming, to put it lightly, disturbs the very fabric of this timeline with some very confusing in-film dates and timeframes, which retcon previous understandings of established continuity. Let's just put it here until Marvel clears it up. Now here's where many of you scoffed at our original video. Doctor Strange's timeline occurs partially before and partially after Civil War. But because his training and the majority of the film occur after May 2016, we're sticking to our guns and placing it here. But wait, Dakota! Wasn't Stephen Strange mentioned as a threat to Hydra way back in 2014 during the Winter Soldier? Yes he was. But watch that scene again.
Zola's algorithm is a program! Choosing Insight's targets.
What targets?
You, a TV anchor in Cairo, the Undersecretary of Defense, a high school valedictorian in Iowa City, Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange, anyone who's a threat to Hydra. Now, or in the future.
The future? How could it know?
How could it not?
It mentions that Zola's algorithm marks individuals as threats, even if they aren't necessarily threats now. People that have the potential to hinder Project Insight and Hydra in the future. Over 219,571 individuals were targeted by the program, most of whom will never get superpowers. At the time, Stephen Strange was just a potential threat. This is confirmed by Kevin Feige, who heads Marvel Studios, and it is also explained in film. Note that before Stephen has that car crash, we see this trophy dated in 2016 in his office. And his watch very explicitly says that we're in February 2016. It must also be explained that the 35-year-old Air Force colonel who broke his back due to experimental armor couldn't have been Rhodes from Civil War, because in canon, he is 48 years of age, and Civil War hasn't happened yet. It's also not likely that this has anything to do with the Hammertech incident from way back in Iron Man 2, as chronologically, that was in 2010, 6 years ago. He would have reached out to Stephen Strange years ago. But again, most of the film occurs after Civil War, with 3 to 4 months of rehab and therapy, and then what appears to be a couple months studying day and night under the Ancient One. Remember, he only actually knows about 3 tricks by the time the final battle happens. Let's jump into a 6-episode web series entitled Slingshot, which is a spin-off of Inhumans characters introduced in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But let's not forget about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4. We'll place episodes 1 through 15 right here. That includes the Ghost Rider arc and the LMD arc. Iron Fist's first season sees Danny Rand attempt to poorly reclaim his family's enterprise from, well, some jerks he grew up with. It's not as bad as everyone seems to give it credit for, so check it out. Episodes 16 through 22 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 come chronologically next on our timeline. In The Defenders, Danny Rand and Colleen Wing reveal the fact that they've been after the Hand for several months, meaning that this is several months after Iron Fist.
What's the deal with that fist? I'm the immortal Iron Fist. You what?
We really don't know exactly where Inhumans takes place on the timeline, so, let's just place it here. So long as you watch it after Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, you should be good. Though time works differently on Sakaar, Thor reveals that 2 years have elapsed since the events of Age of Ultron, which allows this film to fit quite snugly right here. Thor Ragnarok rounds out our timeline as the most recent event in the MCU. No future projects have been expressly identified as being here or there on the timeline, so there's no point in guessing, right? Next time, for version 4.0, we should be able to include The Punisher, Runaways, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, and Black Panther. If you have any problems with this iteration of the timeline or see that I made a mistake, please let me know. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe for future updates, reviews, discussions, and vlogs on all things geeky, especially the MCU, and be sure to click that bell so you can be the first to comment your thoughts. Thanks guys, have a good one.